normal practice of reviewing the previous month's meeting minutes. We have the July 11th meeting minutes in our packets.
Yeah, and I looked over those with Janet, and just one or two things, but everything looks good and fine, and I would approve them.
Okay. So that is a motion to approve.
Yes.
Motion to approve by Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Todd. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion
guess
carries
this is abstain.
4-0 with Clark abstaining, having been absent that meeting. Community corrections.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our numbers this morning are 94 clients. We have 2 on CTP, 3 on pretrial release, and we're supervising 5 juveniles currently. We did receive our grant funding letter a couple weeks ago. A little disappointing. The state actually decreased funding throughout the state to all the counties by almost $2 million. Of the counties, 61 had the same grant awards as last year. 26 had a decrease, only 2 had an increase in funding. So unfortunately, we were ones that did lose a little bit of money in our jail treatment program. Community corrections and probation did stay the same.
Okay.
I do have a board meeting Thursday. We'll go over that with them, and I've got a couple of emails from board members that I want to pass along to DOC to try to get some answers to why counties are funded differently, and hopefully I can get
Yeah.
on that.
So tell me again, which program is receiving?
Jail treatment lost $6,000.
Okay.
86 last year, they're getting 80 this year.
That seems inconsistent with some of the other state priorities.
Sheriff and Ashley can probably
Yeah.
answer that better than I can on what was defunded on their side. So.
All right.
Also today, you're going to have additional appropriations and a transfer of funds to my 100 series. That's for the county translator. I was going to bring this to the commissioner's attention yesterday, but when the judges and I decided to fund that translator, it was going to be circuit court until those funds were exhausted, Superior Court until those were depleted, then I would take over that. But I was going to transfer funds to one of their line items, and we found out recently we cannot do that. So, as you know, she's also my wife, and so I'm just wanting a waiver of possibly the nepotism or a conflict of interest, but this will make it completely transparent that the funding will come out of my budget from this point on for the next 5.5 months.
Well, I think with regard to the nepotism or the waiver, that would all be with the commissioner.
It is,
wouldn't
yeah.
be
But
with
I was going
us,
to bring it
but-
to them attention yesterday, but you'll see those today if you had any questions on why that money's being transferred.
Okay,
for the-
I do appreciate you bringing that up and giving us that notice.
But the good part is, we have a translator at no cost to the county now because it is coming out of my budget.
Okay,
Any
Great.
questions?
okay, I see that. All right, thank you. Any questions? I guess I should,
No.
everybody
No.
good? Okay.
All right, thank you.
We have Nancy with us today. So we'll get a probation update today.
Sorry, it's August. I don't know what happened to this year, but hey, I finally made it here. It's been a busy year with grants and treks and juveniles and everything else, so I apologize for not being here sooner. So some new changes. Well, we haven't detained many this year. I think in April, we had some kids that were, I think it was kids with handguns that we had to detain. The detention centers weren't taking any of our juveniles. I think what was happening, counties were either taking their own juveniles only, or other counties were reserving beds. They were paying monthly to reserve a bed, and that didn't make any sense for us to do. It would have cost us probably $50,000 for the year to reserve a bed or two when we don't spend that much, so we didn't. So Delaware County did have room that month for juveniles. Community Corrections has been great taking our juveniles. Some of the issues have been that they haven't been cooperative, they escape, parents haven't been paying. So we're trying to work on those issues. What's new is we can't detain kids under the age of 12 anymore. So that's been a problem. Delaware County won't take girls anymore. A lot of these detention centers are understaffed, so that's also been an issue. Their costs went from $149 a day to $179, which was a pretty good jump. Something new in the statute, we can't collect fees anymore for informal cases for juveniles. So we used to charge $50 for an informal case for juveniles. So we can't charge that anymore. And most of our juvenile cases don't go to court, they're informal, so that's less money our office is taking in. So that's kind of, and I think as far as court goes, the court can't charge juveniles and their parents like they used to. So another hit our office has taken. Let me see, as far as Trex, we've taken in about 23,000 this year, as far as Trex. That was, we had a busy year this year. I think first 3 months, I was pretty busy with Trex, putting stuff in the system and working with payments, doing a lot of claims. So a lot of the money goes to reimbursement to the county for pauper attorney fees and for juvenile care, drug-free fund, and restitution to people, and then to probation user fees.
Okay.
So we had a pretty good year. So as far as detention this year, we've only spent $1,050.
Right.
So any questions?
Not a question, but thank you for taking all the time for that. I know it's
That's fine.
tedious paperwork to do that Trex filing, but
No,
it clearly paid off.
it's tedious, but it certainly is worth it. And it helps support salaries for the office. Trends as far as juveniles, we've had auto thefts this year. Another disturbing trend was the kids downloading child porn. They're getting into this website called, I'm trying to think of there's some website, gaming website they get into, and it has chat rooms and they get into child porn. But it's hard to explain. It might be it's age appropriate for them, but it's still child porn. So we've had a lot of those cases, sadly, lately. So the juvenile officers have been pretty busy this year. A lot of different cases.
Nancy, I'll ask, later on in our additional appropriations, there's some for probation for an opioid grant. And I
Yes.
just wonder if you'd like to speak to that.
So that was probably for the peer recovery coaches.
Okay?
So I have a grant for to support the peer recovery coach program. So there's 2 sections, and one's the grant part, and the other section is we were given $30,000 through the opioid grant for the peer recovery coach program. So there are certain parts of that grant that's not covered. So the rest of that grant, rest of those fees or bills are taken out of the opioid grant.
So, and I guess my question is are those funds different than the share of the county's opioid settlement funds that was
No, that's
distributed?
part of the opioid settlement.
This is part of the
Yes.
opioid settlement fund?
Yes,
Okay.
so we were fortunate to receive $30,000.
So what I think we have to approve today is 50.
Right.
Is 50.
I think I did an additional appropriation. Part of that's the grant I received from the state for our peer recovery.
So it's a combination of
Two
two
things.
sets of funds?
Yeah, there's 2
Two
sets.
things.
That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
part of it's the opioid settlement, the other part is the actual grant. I had money back from a couple years that needed to be used up, so I had to use that up before I could actually appropriate the new grant money. Plus, I had the opioid settlement money, trying to keep them separate. Our office also received opioid settlement money for incentives and an incentives program for probationers. I think we got a couple $1,000s for that.
Okay.
So that was nice too. And then our Drug and Alcohol Coalition received money.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Nancy, I'd just like to thank you for the way you care about our community and care about the people that you serve, and it's really appreciated. It's noticed.
Well, thank you. The peer recovery community is just,
Yes. They couldn't do what they do without you, though.
oh, well, they've done it. I've done a small part. They've been
We need,
wonderful.
the sad thing is we need to find more peer recovery coaches.
Yes, I mean, we started with one, and then we had two, and then it's just exploded, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you.
Okay. Moving on to new business. We only have one item. It is sort of a prelim to next week's budget discussion, but you'll recall that each year we talk about there's some key numbers we have to get from the state that sets the context for our budget discussions, and we've started to get some of those numbers. And this year, this past year, the General Assembly passed some legislation that added some steps, some requirements to the process, and one of those is that we have to publicly review and show in the record that we publicly reviewed what the levy growth quotient, or what our maximum levy and what the property tax caps are for Clinton County. And so you received in our packets that information, and I want to just briefly go through it to make sure everyone's comfortable. But each year, we are allowed an allotment of property tax monies that we can raise called our property tax levy. So while I know some people saw a large increase in their property tax bill, cumulatively to the county, we saw a very small growth. We're only allowed to grow by what the state says we're allowed to grow, and that's called the growth quotient. And that is based on a 6-year rolling average of income growths of everyone except farmers in the state of Indiana. And they take that, and that just recalculated each year, and that percentage is applied then to your levy, and that's how much it's allowed to grow each year. So when you look back at the most recent 6 years, you do the average on the income growth for next year's budget, the 2024 budget, our property tax collections will be allowed to grow by 4%. That's our levy growth quotient for 2024. Then you look at what that means in terms of real numbers. Let's get to the right page. So for Clinton County, now when I say Clinton County's tax rate, that includes a combination of the health department reassessment, the cumulative funds, and the general fund. But that levy growth then would grow from 9,183,000 to 10,777,000. That's what that 4% calculates to. And then of that, I believe that we have a breakdown, of that, the levy for the general fund is projected to be, or will be, calculates to be 8,406,378. Now, when we do all that, it also leads to a projection of what the tax cap impact will be. And so the state gives us an estimate of what they project the circuit breaker impact to be. How much of that money that we are allowed to collect will we have to effectively refund to the taxpayer because they're over the tax cap? And that amount is projected to be in 2024, $765,100 is the county's projected tax cap impact, with $635,000 of that being monies that would have gone to the general fund were there no tax cap.
How's that compare to last year?
It is up very slightly, but last year was down considerably from the year prior. So we're trending pretty strong, or pretty well. Now each taxing district has the same set of documents. So, all the townships, the cities, the schools, the airport, the solid waste, all of those have them. But not all of them get them automatically sent to them from the state. So they are allowed to go, or encouraged to go onto the state's gateway system and look up their own numbers. So the General Assembly this year, to sort of close that loophole to make sure that everybody got what they need to see for their own budget preparation, is now put in a requirement that the council send that information on to them. That the auditor sends it on, the council reviews and makes any comments that we deem necessary. I have here the stack for all of those reports for the other taxing districts that any of you can review if you'd like. Britt and I have taken the time to review those. And our proposal would be that we send out a letter to those taxing districts, just essentially notifying them of the same report that we received, notifying what their maximum levy is, what their tax cap reduction in that levy will be, and then encouraging them not to spend more than their allocated amounts. And then that would be something that we would sign and would satisfy the review requirement. What I guess I would like to have for the record is that someone that would be comfortable making the motion that we have received these reports, that the council recognizes that the council president and the auditor have reviewed those, and that we are instructed to send that letter to the taxing districts per the new legislation.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Jeff, and I hope you got that all, Britt. If not, we'll wordsmith it later.
I'll
but-
second.
Second by Clark, and I'll just forward these same reports on with a quick note saying that we're doing so per IC code, whatever, with no comment other than try to stay under your levy. So I have a motion by Jeff, a second by Clark. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Oh, and I didn't mention, the other thing is that it also sets the cumulative rates for next year, and they are the same as they have been in previous years. So there's no change there, but it does warrant a quick explanation. The cumulative funds are collected slightly different than that is called a rate-driven fund. So you take the assessed value of the county and you apply the rate to it, and that's your total amount of taxes collected. Whereas the general fund works the other way. You know your assessed value and you know your ending number, and then you do the math to collect what rate it takes to collect that levy. So the rate-based funds are slightly different, but they're a much smaller amount, amounting to a couple $100,000 apiece, but those rates did stay the same. Any questions on all of that? We'll dive into the budget more next week, and even more than that into September, but that gives us one of the first key numbers we needed to know.
Alan, when are you sending those out?
Hopefully here today, tomorrow,
Okay,
yeah, very quickly.
okay, might look through them.
Oh, yeah, please. I'll leave them with you there.
Thank you.
We want to get them into the hands of the other districts for as quickly as they can for their budget process. Okay, any questions? Okay. Moving on then, we'll go to our additional appropriations for this month. We have a few, but not as many as we've had in other months. We'll begin with the Board of Health. We've got a request for a $3,000 appropriation for the environmental health from the 1159 budget to replenish the environmental health line item. From the Lit Correctional Facility, you'll recall over the last couple of months we've talked about several repairs that Sheriff Kelly brought to us that we were going to use to we were going to cover with some of the additional distribution we got from the state earlier in the year. Here's that official appropriation, 167,034, and you see that list: exterior door, windows, kitchen hood, fire suppression, fire alarm, server room, climate control are the projects we're tackling there.
I did want to point out that the sheriff didn't actually put that much money in for some of the things he was going to fix. But I went ahead and additional the whole entire amount just so we wouldn't have to, it wouldn't have to come before council again. So the whole amount that he received for this.
Which is good, because we already had one addition to the cost, so that covers
We're
it.
just streamlining it for you.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we came under that cost, so.
You did.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
We'll hopefully.
We did have,
stay under it.
yeah, we had to add one control unit to the process. Okay, next, you'll recall last month, this was when Laura Archibald came and we committed $20,000 to be used as a matching grant for some further opioid treatment funds. Here's that appropriation, the official advertisement of that. Now we've got a few for the surveyor's office here that relate to drain maintenance. $9,833, a reimbursement from Hutchins LLC for moving of a tile, 1/3 of a reimbursement that the county advanced the money and we're getting reimbursed. Here's the large one, $298,000 even and 60 cents. This is for the Price Blackburn reconstruction, and Dan, I'll let you maybe speak to that, because that's a pretty large number.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
The purpose of that advancement from the General Drain Improvement Fund is to cover the cost of a reconstruction of the Price Blackburn Drain that's located in Sugar Creek Township. Out there, we replaced 3,700 feet of 36-inch pipe, almost 2,000 feet of 30-inch pipe, and another 3,000 feet of 24-inch pipe. A major project, pretty much covered the entire main branch of that. We only have 2 more branches left to do. We'll do that once this is completed. We are in the process of getting a loan from the Compass Credit Union in Tipton. We did look here locally at banks and also in another bank in Lafayette, but their interest rates were not compatible with Encompass. We got a loan for 3.5% in this
Wow.
economy. That's pretty amazing. That's why we had to walk away from a local bank. They were interested in doing business with us, but unfortunately, to pay best regards to our taxpayer, the best use of their money, we went with the Encompass Bank. We're expecting to close on that loan here in the next week or two. But this will cover the cost so we can get our contractor paid. He has a significant amount of pipe buried in the ground out there now. So we would like to really get this transferred over to the Blackburn watershed so we can get him paid. And any other questions?
Understand.
You might just finish the thought on how that loan ends up being repaid and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly. Once we get that money, that loan, the money we get, that will be put back into the General Drain Improvement Fund or into the Blackburn and transferred back into the General Drain Improvement Fund, however you guys want to do that. But that will reimburse the fund. And the reason we don't want to use the money to finance this, we would be required to charge taxpayers 10% under state code. And we don't want to do that, put an extra burden on the taxpayers out there. So once we get this done, we won't have to pay that additional fee every 6 months for the taxpayers.
The Encompass loan is repaid then via a special assessment, is that correct? Or how does
Yeah,
that?
correct. Yeah, that was set up, actually, we started this process in 19. We were ready to go with the project. The initial price of the project was $284,000 during those years, the COVID years. To date, we only saw a price increase of $13,000, which was amazing to me. We did very well with our pipe company and working with us to get us a really good price on that amount of pipe. So that's kind of the way it'll work. The assessments were set then. We have more than enough to recoup the money that's coming in. The bank is satisfied with our projected revenues. So I think it's a good shape, it's a good project, and we're looking forward to getting our money in and
How
getting the GDI
how long do
replenished.
you anticipate having that loan?
Be 5 years
Okay.
with a balloon, and then another 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, any idea how old the pipe is that you're replacing?
It was about 130 years
I was gonna
old,
say, it's gotta be 100.
and we expect this one to last at least another 100, probably longer.
Well, I commend you for taking that on, because I deal with that in my professional life regularly, and we have so much value of the land in Clinton County is based on 100-year-old infrastructure.
You will be seeing more of this in the future. We're working on another one now, which we go to bid on it probably in, I'm going to say October, November, for a spring start date. And try to continue that. Getting the financing figured out was the tough thing. And then COVID hit us and everybody shut down. And we have a lot of trouble explaining to banks where they're going to get their, what's the word I'm looking for?
Collateral?
We bury it in the ground,
Yeah.
anything of any value, and they can't go back and dig that up.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. Thank you for that explanation. Staying with the surveyor's office, we received a tax settlement from Tippecanoe County of $371.20 for the Young watershed. And that totals for the surveyors $308,204.20. Sheriff's Sale Administration Fund, $3,000 to cover the cost of sheriff sales for SRI, the vendor that conducts those. From landfill, $50,000 for the HR, an additional appropriation for the HR contractual agreement line item. This goes back to, Clark reminded me that we have talked about this in recent months. We have three separate special projects going on that are above and beyond the normal HR functions that we have in that contract line item. One being the salary survey, one being the review and revision of the job descriptions, and three being the review and revision of the employee handbook. And so this funding is to cover the additional costs of those special projects. It's a one-time expenditure to get those things up to date. One more from the Surveyor's Office User Fee Fund, $570.31 to get a reimbursement for a paid invoice. Whenever we do professional services that are required on a project for an applicant on a permit, they're required to reimburse the county for any professional review, and this is one of those reimbursements. A couple from the Highway Department from the Wheel Tax Fund, $150,000 from the wheel tax, and then $200,000, I believe that's from the surtax, which are separate kind of sub-funds under the wheel tax. One's for automobiles, one's for the heavy vehicles. But so a total of $350,000 that we're going to do some line striping on county roads, Michigan Town Blacktop, Colfax Manson Road, and Bunnell Road. So we have a healthy cash balance in that fund, and so Rick's going to put some of that to work here for the county. And then lastly, the opioid grant that Nancy referenced, $1,500. It goes to incentives, $2,000 goes to training, $500 goes to outreach, and $46,817 goes to contractual, which I'm guessing is the peer coach. Yeah, peer coaches. Okay. So with that explanation from Nancy earlier, those all make sense now. And that is your list of additional appropriations for August. Any questions on any of those or need for further explanation? Okay. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Carol to approve this month's additional appropriations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. All of those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Alan, I'm just down two ordinances. One is from last month.
Okay.
Janet, we had one denial in there, so she wanted to type that on there, so everyone can find the card. I don't think you were here for that.
No. Okay. Now, we have a few transfers also to approve, beginning with Parkview. A request from Chris for $400 to move from water softener to gas and diesel. That was to cover the summer propane fill. EMS, $34,855, moving from a paramedic line to paramedic program director line. EMS, $58,000 from group insurance to vehicle. This was the chase vehicle that we talked about last month. EMS, this is moving. So as we've been hearing from multiple departments over time, we've had a few places where we've not been fully staffed, and so that leaves money in the staffing line item, and we've instead been paying out of overtime, and so we're transferring money here in EMS from the paramedic and EMT line items over to overtime to cover that overtime shortfall. $66,264 from paramedic and $31,667 from EMT. This is what Brett referred to in his transfer request, $3,000 from miscellaneous services to the translator line item. Health Department, $3,200 from COVID testing grant to equipment to get a medical cart for the immunization clinic. And that is the slate of transfers for this month. Any questions on those? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the transfer docket.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Todd to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Clark. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. As always, in your packet, we have the financial review documents that give the monthly financial report with the fund balances, and then also the budget status report showing where we stand through the end of July. For the minutes, we typically like to reflect that those reports were provided to us by the auditor, so I'd entertain a motion that we have received those reports.
So moved.
A motion by Clark. Second by Carol. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. I want to point out again, because I think it's important that the public knows this, but part of the reason we do that is because there's questions that indicate
Yes.
whether you take that extra level of review when you apply for bonds. And the county went through our bond review process with Standard & Poor's since we last met, and we did receive an A bond rating, which is just outstanding for a county.
Yes.
And so that reflects in tremendous interest cost savings for the taxpayers of the county when we borrow that money. So there is a method to the madness there on why we take that motion every month.
The A bond rating is something to celebrate.
It is a really big deal. Okay, any council reports? I just kind of stole some of my own thunder. I did want to report on that we did have the bond rating come through with a solid A, and our very good fiscal management was cited in the report by Standard & Poor's, both commissioners and council, on how we monitor the budget. And so, that's not just us, that's the department heads and everybody that has to administer that budget. So thank you to all that helped us get that rating. The bonds will be issued tomorrow for the project, and we will settle and receive the money on the 24th of August. So that's where we stand on the financing aspect of our annex and courthouse projects. Any other council reports? Okay. Commissioner report. Anything from the commissioners?
Couple things, Alan. As everybody
Bert, can
knows-
you come up so that,
As everybody knows, we had a power outage yesterday that was kind of a learning experience, and the commissioners kind of waited and waited and waited. We thought that because we had a general manager of the utility company that sat on our board, maybe we would get electricity before everybody else did, but it became
The
obvious.
school was asking
Yeah.
too, Bird.
Yeah. It became obvious at about 11:30 that it just was not going to happen. So we kind of struggled with, what do we do? Do we close down, et cetera? So it took us a while to figure out, should we let people go or not, obviously in the courthouse. If you went through the courthouse at that time, you noticed that everybody was using their flashlights. I thought I was going through a concert or something with everybody's lights on, But anyway, we struggled through it, but we learned a lot of things too. So, I hope that in the next 12 years, we don't have another power outage like that. But at the same time, now all of our emergency exits are having trouble because we've ran their batteries down and they're not coming back up. So it was a learning experience. Two, things are going well, obviously, with tomorrow, the groundbreaking and so forth, and that's good. As Alan, we had our State Board of Accounts review just last week, and that went over 99.5 well. We had no major hits. They were very complimentary of our auditor and also of you, Alan. So they felt like everything was really in a pretty decent shape, which kind of reflects, again, the A rating that we've been receiving, because I think we're financially in pretty good shape and done well with our money. And that's a good thing, because you don't have to respond to a whole bunch of stupid stuff with the State Board of Accounts. But it went very well. And obviously the 65 and 28 interchange, they're moving ground and dirt now. I'm not sure, to what level that is, but at least they're moving some stuff around. So it's kind of exciting to see that happen. And then at the same time, Jeff and I are scheduled to have a meeting on Monday with the Humane Society and the city. Jeff and I have met with the mayor, and we've talked with them back and forth, and I think they're going to have a bigger buy-in, which is going to help the Humane Society and us try to get some things done. So,
Good.
things are happening.
Good.
So,
Good.
that's it, sir.
all right, thank you, Commissioner Weaver. And thank you for your representing the council on that.
Oh, yeah.
That's important.
You are welcome.
I'm glad that Commissioner Weaver mentioned that. I neglected, I wanted to bring that up too. And you are all invited, and I hope you can come tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for the groundbreaking on the new annex building. Everyone is welcome. It's a public event. So, department head reports. Department heads that need time with the council. Sheriff Kelly.
Couple really good things, great, all of it's great. SBOA absolutely had a great review or audit, whatever you call it, and, and it's just like anything. I won't use the same words as Bert, but it's one of those things where it was a nice check and balance on the system, and everything checked out great, and everything's working fine. So anyway, that was not an experience I'd say I'd want to go through again, but all the numbers were right, and that's what matters. I sent an email to all of the council members in regards to footwear for the inmates. I don't want to be technical, and I just want to be upfront and say that, we would like to be able to do that purchase through commissary, because that we have the funds in commissary rather than taking it from one of the other budgets coming close to the end of the year. So that's what we're asking for, is approval for that. And for consideration of reconsidering a resolution to do that, have that ability without bringing it to council. And we can have conversation over that over the next couple of months and get that figured out, where we don't have to bring those inmate needs to you, and just go ahead and get it taken care of so we're not on a delay.
Let's just stop and we'll handle that real quick. You did all see the email from the sheriff, request for, I think it was $3,000, if I remember correctly, for footwear for inmates. The sheriff's interpretation that was a little bit of a gray area on
It is gray.
allowable uses, and just to eliminate all doubt, he's bringing it to the council to get our approval to allow that expenditure, and I think that's a wise thing to do. So let's deal with that first. So we had a request for $3,000. Do I have a motion to approve that use from the commissary?
Also move.
I have a motion by Carol and a second by Jeff that we allow $3,000 for inmate footwear from the commissary fund. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Just to speak real quickly, I did speak with the sheriff beforehand, and this idea of a resolution, I think, makes a lot of sense on, items directly related to inmate needs. And Matron Kelly even suggested putting a not-to-exceed number on there, that beyond a certain level, it still comes back to the council. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think we should work on something like that.
It'd be
So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
One other thing from July, we requested more additional money to use for purchase of the public items that we provide at the county fair and different events, and that's something for National Night Out, things like that. So
Yeah, I want to
don't
bring that.
know
What was
you-
that number? Can you refresh my memory?
You had given us email approval, I think it was not to exceed 3,500, and it was because all the fair giveaways that were previously approved, we had an outstanding fair this year and a lot of it in attendance, so we ran out of that in 1 year. So we wanted to replenish those items for the National Night Out. You gave us email approval, so we just wanted to come back and revisit it for the public document.
Yeah, you'll recall, we did have that email discussion, and because that event that they needed the items for was prior to this meeting, we gave a conditional approval, but we wanted to bring it up in the public meeting for a ratification vote. So I would entertain a motion to ratify the purchase of the promotional materials from the commissary fund.
So moved.
Motion by Todd.
Second.
Second by Clark. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you I'd forgotten about that.
It was a fantastic fair. I think if you were out there, every day was full, and so Mother Nature was kind to us and gave us a great week. So that was fantastic.
One other question on that possible resolution. Do we want to have a consensus here to say direct you and Britt and the sheriff to go ahead and draft a resolution?
If you would
something
feel
like
more
that?
comfortable, but otherwise, I mean, I just think it'll get presented to us in due time, and we would
Okay.
just consider it upon, unless
I was
there's,
just asking.
I guess as long as there's no objection, I don't know that we need an
Well, I
affirmative
think,
motion to
I
draft
think it's a
something.
good idea because it sounds like it's all going geared towards the inmates, and they're the ones and their families that are putting money out to go into the commissary fund. And I definitely like the idea of, say, let's not waste our time with trivial things and had just put an upper limit on it so that anything above, say, $3,500 or something like that would have to go to the council for approval regardless.
And an example of that, we had a dryer that needs replaced, and we'd rather take that out of commissary than, and that is a part of the statute, we can replace that equipment. But those are the things that, every day that we are dealing with at the facility. Today, we're, cleaning out drains. We've got 8 to 9 feet of sludge, sand, and everything else in the basement drains that we're trying to find a way to get taken out of there. So that's the everyday thing that we're dealing with there at the facility. And, and we're dealing with age.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just want to cover a couple other things. State Road 39 will be closed probably around the August 25th down at Reagan Run. It's down by the new Antioch Church south of State Road 38. I received an email from the construction company, so I sent that email to the department heads to Rick and to Renee and Stephen Deckard so they can plan accordingly. So I'm not sure of a detour route. I haven't been provided one yet. So we're going to have a little more traffic or vehicle traffic on some of those side roads. So just for the community to understand that the end of August, plan a different way to get to work in south of Clinton County, because that will definitely be closed. And I don't have a time frame on when it'll be reopened. And I think it is that bridge south of the church, or right in that area of the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that covered, the vehicles at the sheriff's office, we should take delivery sometime this month of the last 7 that were first projected. And that 7 vehicles that are coming in, we have a few vehicles to trade in, and that's something I'll inform the commissioners at the meeting tomorrow. We're trying to put a list together, everything is going to get traded in. I've had emails with Councilwoman Price in regards to a vehicle for, use to be donated or given or provided by the county to We Care, and we are going to really revisit that and see if we can help. But we got to get that list of vehicles that we're going to trade in, so that original cost will be offset by the trade-ins. And we have, I'm going to guess, 6 to 8 vehicles they're going to go. So just look forward to that. The hiring process, we will start a hiring process with approved officers for January or for 2024, the 2 SRO people, for those replacement people. And we also have 2 slots that are already in the budget and don't need any conversation, but we only hired 1 out of the last process. So we're looking forward to 2024. We'll have 4 more deputies here in the county. So it looks on the up and up and fantastic. So, it's one of those things. We had over 25 applicants for the last 2 positions, and, so it's exciting to have that many people apply for those positions. And, and so we're.
So you're currently one open slot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We have two current open slots until 24 with that new budget.
Oh, I guess I thought you'd said you'd filled one of them, though.
We filled 1, and we didn't fill the other slot.
Okay, yeah.
Out of that last hiring process. We had a resignation.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, anything else? And if you have questions, anything, come by the sheriff's office, come visit, take a look. If you have any questions.
Matron Kelly, would you share with the council what you shared with me about the federal inmate renegotiation, the rate renegotiation?
Okay, so the per diem rate for the federal inmate program is currently set at $68 per day, plus the $27 per hour, plus the mileage reimbursement. That's all that's been upstanding for the last 3 years. Our rate was eligible to be renegotiated to take effect August 1st. I began the process back in April. There were some new numbers. There was a new platform that we were doing the per diem on through the LEAP program through the FBI. And in the process of trying to gain these numbers, I got notice that the federal government was suspending per diem increases. And so I'm in the process of negotiating, but a new per diem rate will not take effect at minimum till October 1st.
The new federal fiscal year.
I did ask for the moon, so the sun and the stars. So we'll see where we land.
Okay, all right. I
Disappointing.
appreciate that update, though.
Yep.
Okay.
And on the, I sent a June income from the, and I will get better at sending those when I get those. I apologize, and it's easy to look at the budget and what the account is, but we'll get those sent to you.
That is helpful. I did appreciate you sending that.
And as far as we'll have some pension meetings coming up, and we are still operating, our pension plan is still bringing in more than what the national average is. We're still at 9%, so
Okay.
we're still climbing and building on that pension. So our company has done a fantastic job on our investments, so very solid. So with that, I'll got to go through some of the pension packets that I've got, and I'll share that with you guys, and we'll do something next month and get a kind of a year-end update.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other department heads? Rodney?
Thanks. Just real quickly, I'll give you notice, the council. I was going to give the commissioners notice yesterday, but the power outage had other ideas. We had asked them for a contractual individual to do STD, STI testing. Once we finally got through all of the activities and the hours that that person was going to work, we had originally asked for contractual. And in talking with HR gals here, I think they're better suited to be sent in as a hourly part-time. So, because we are going to have to oversee them more than we expected to do, and we are setting their hours. So I just want to give you guys heads up.
Okay.
I'll have a transfer to move that money into 100s as a part-timer, and then I'll have to do an additional to cover the Social Security and Medicaid costs for that.
Okay.
So I think that way we're actually a little more oversight of those activities for them, so.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Rodney will be a feature presenter at the budget next week because we're going to completely redo the health department budget going forward here. It's
Yeah.
kind of exciting.
Well, again,
It is.
with you saying that, like I said, I would like to thank Britt and her office because I really had to spring that extra budget on her in a hurry, and I do appreciate all her hard work and efforts and all that, so, to make that happen for us. So, had to state calling this morning, because I think they're up 68 now, so.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about it next
Yep,
week.
thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Any other department heads? See, we got a couple in the room.
Oh,
LEPC?
well, LAPC, yeah, just a reminder that we are having a seminar August 26th, Saturday, registration's 8:30, 9 to 1-ish, probably not quite that long. We'll have a guest speaker come up from Marion County Health Department, that's a friend of mine, and also on the Indiana Ponce Commission as well, who's the parent of the he's going to come up and present on a train derailment and the impact for a high population area with the impact of what we would have to do.
I think that's a very timely topic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, very timely.
And I think we're also having the hospital come in and talk to us about their in regards to we're also doing that. So what any of you are available and have time to do that, we appreciate it.
Okay, we will try to make sure there is council representation. All right. Anybody else? Anybody in general have any business to bring before the council? I knew we'd be quick. All right. Oh, well, just to
Just
sign?
sign that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I had something else to do.
Sorry.
Okay, well, seeing and hearing no other business, we will call the meeting adjourned. See you all next week.
What day is that next?
Tomorrow, see you tomorrow.
Well, yeah, tomorrow next week, next Tuesday is the
Next Tuesday?
first budget.
Okay.
At 8,
I believe it is at 8.
8 o'clock.
I don't know that we really need to start.
That's
at eight.
early.